6. And today I'm going to be having a discussion like we normally do on the Substack platform. And this session is primarily for those marketing professionals that find themselves as part of an in-house communication team or who are communication or marketing consultants creating content. And this is where we actually
Mm-hmm.
break down some of these themes within the field of modern day marketing. Because, to be honest with you, for the last 5 or 6 years, because of the advent of AI, among other things, and also the rapid development in technology, it has been it has been somewhat of a little bit of a learning curve for practitioners. They've had to sharpen their skills, and also it's a technological maze. So this is why we have these discussions. I'm joined by Mpho. She is a marketing content creator, and she's got a portfolio of clients that she manages at Butters Communication. So during these sessions, would like to share some deep insights, and we're going to be focusing on as marketing consultants creating some sort of a sustainable relationship with our clients and the relationship with the intended audience as well as the customers. So bottom line, through creating these narrative storytelling and this node of communication, um, this is some sort of a means to enhance the customer journey. And Impo has also published a short form booklet, and we're going to be basing our discussion on some of the lessons and perhaps the good practice to abide by when getting things going. Welcome to you, Impo. I'm very excited for the session. We are going to be basing this on
Super.
this checklist. So perhaps in the show notes, maybe we're going to have to share that in terms of a PDF and so on. So to kick off our discussion, the Impo, I'm very happy that we are having
Absolutely.
this live. It's on a Friday. It's a beautiful day here in Cape Town. You are connecting to us via Pretoria.
Lovely
We
day.
wanted to touch on
Yes.
the clarity versus just posting content for the sake of posting content, and sometimes it's just a checklist item that we kind of create, so it is perhaps on the one end you have this clear messaging that you want to also get out, and also you want to do it in a creative means,
Creative way.
so how can brands explain themselves in a super fast method or manner without putting the audience to sleep? You have sometimes there's like information overload. Over to you, Impo.
No, 100%. Thank you so much, Hassan, for having me again. I'm really, really enjoying these sessions that we have. And funny enough, I've also recently started my own, so it's quite helpful. But thank you for posing that question. It's actually a very good question. Um, but here's the thing: we need to know how to distinguish between clarity and creativity. And in my experience and opinion as a marketing professional, clarity should always come before creativity. Because if I land on your website or your Facebook page or your Instagram, any of your social platforms as a company, as a freelancer, as a professional, and I cannot tell exactly what you do in the 5 to 10 seconds that I've already landed on your website or your platform, it doesn't really matter how creative your messaging is because I, as a potential consumer or client, am already confused. The creativity should come in how you communicate the message, not whether people understand it. So think of it this way. If there are two coffee shops, for example, and one says experience handcrafted moments inspired by global flavors or global journeys, and the other says freshly roasted coffee homemade pastries serviced daily. Which of those two would you understand quickly? It's the second one. Because the first one is telling you handcrafted moments inspired by global flavors. But it doesn't really say exactly that we sell coffee. Whereas the other one tells you freshly roasted coffee, homemade pastries, served daily. So, in terms of clarity versus creativity, clarity is the most important. Creativity should come after. So, my rule is confuse nobody but impress them later. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, definitely. Which brings us to our next question. This is where we have quality over quantity. So we find that with brands trying to create a node or a relationship with a customer as part of the customer journey, we find that there's always this question of quality over quantity. So so
Quantity.
if you
Uh-huh.
could be, uh, you know, what can you say about creating a quality,
Quality over
well-informed,
quantity.
relevant content as opposed to just going for it and just filling the content calendar with content for the sake
Yeah,
of
yeah. For the
like
sake of, yeah.
and engagement.
Okay. So I don't really think, and this is something I actually covered in one of my recent Facebook Live videos. The minute you, as a brand, as a company, as a freelancer, as a personal brand, start making posting your goal, then automatically your page, your website, all of that is going to be filled with content that says nothing. Consistency means that you basically need to deliver value consistently, not just content. If you post every single day of the week, Monday to Sunday, but the posts are mediocre, just to stay visible, just to stay on people's feeds, but you're actually saying nothing, you're actually training your audience to ignore you because they're not expecting any value from you. They're not expecting anything to help solve their problems. They're not expecting, solutions to help them save time, for example, save money, help with inconveniences that they may have. So, for example, think of an accountant. Instead of forcing daily motivational posts that you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way up until Sunday. Rather spend that 1 week creating one good post explaining a text mistake or, you know, a big mistake you could make as a person or as a company that could cost you thousands and thousands of rands. That post will actually generate more trust and more value than 7 posts in that week that are just saying nothing. So sometimes the most strategic thing that you can do is take a moment, think about it, think about your customer. I like to tell my clients and the people I talk to on a daily basis, when you create content, don't create it as the business. Create it as the person who would be consuming that content. Think of it as a person who's on the feed scrolling, who in 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now will need that service that you're offering. And think about what it is that you'd be saying to them in order to convince them that when they do eventually need what you offer, you should become top of mind. So the goal is finding a balance between the two.
So this also begs the question, and it's very important through overtime posting and doing research, building a very clear picture of the demographic of the clients and um, what piques their interest, what their interests are, what's their background. So in this way, you can make an informed decision in forging that relationship ultimately with clients. I want to touch on something, and this is where the conversion a blind spot. And you know, there's always this emphasis on making it easier for the clients to understand what you're offering, and also creating some sort of awareness around how, if possible, if there's a payment wall or a payment aspect, how we can make it easy for clients to be aware of how to acquire the, perhaps the product, So how can we make it easy for clients out there, and our clients, to create, have these awareness drives on perhaps how to get to the retail store and how to make this purchase.
No, 100%. So, conversion for product and services have certain and slight differences, um, in a sense that both need to build trust before getting the client or the customer to come and purchase. But the reason why I particularly enjoy or love this question is because we think about it in different ways. Sometimes it's not even about making it easy to say yes, or to make the purchase. Sometimes it's about building that trust, and along that journey of that um, company client journey, you need to think of it as, for example, if you're a customer or a client, you need to ask, can I trust this person? And for service businesses, conversion becomes not completely, okay, I could say completely, but removing that uncertainty. Obviously, nothing can be 100%, but if you have broken the trust barrier, and you've gotten somebody to get to the point where they are convinced that I trust this person, I trust this company, I trust this service, I trust this product, then I feel like the yes or the purchase, or convincing them to come to the store and make the purchase, comes as smoothly as getting them to trust you. So this could mean things as simple as showing testimonials, explain your process, show your previous works, portfolios, answering common objections. Because the minute you're unable to do all of that, it starts to build doubt in the person's mind to say that you say you can solve this and that problem for me, but I have not seen that you actually can. So, how will I actually know if I can't see it? So, think about, for example, tax companies or a bank, or let's say renovating a house. You probably wouldn't hire the cheapest person after seeing just one Facebook post that says, "Hi, we renovate houses. We've done this for 50 years. If you want to renovate your house, come to us." I don't think so.
Hmm.
For those of you who have houses. However, you're going to want references. You're going to want pictures of houses they've renovated, reviews, a conversation actually. So if this person is just posting on Facebook or on LinkedIn that we renovate houses, we've done it for 50 years, come renovate your house with us, you are most likely never going to trust that person. But if they post consistently, we've renovated a house in Cape Town, here's the before, here's the after, we've renovated this house in Pretoria, in Durban, in Johannesburg. Here's the before, here's the after. You go to the Google My Business profile and you read some of the reviews, and the customers are saying, I used this company 2 years ago for my house and I'm happy with the result. Then you are most likely to go to trust that renovation company.
That's where trust is built. So I want to touch
That's where
on
trust is
a
built.
I want to touch on an important theme here. This is how, for your clients, how you can humanize their brands. All right. So you see
Hmm.
there's content out there. it's good, but to move away from the superficial part of things is showing the human side of the brand. Perhaps there's a
Yeah.
blooper, a behind the scenes of a content, or
Yes.
even if the business is facing some sort of a challenge, and bringing that into the content feed. How best can brands humanize themselves? And in this way, there is some sort of a
Online.
means where the intended audience or the customers can kind of relate to this brand. Like, hey, I like this side to that. These guys are, there's a human aspect and a side to that, and it's not just a bricks and mortar machine.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's actually a good question. Um, Something just came to mind now, but I will attach a link rather, and rather have people watch it, go back to watch it, because it kind of covers this. But with regards to being authentic as a business on social media or in the digital world, most times authenticity is misunderstood, or we have a warped or different perspective of it, because most times we're thinking being authentic is sharing everything, it's putting yourself out there, it's laying yourself bare. And most of the times that's not the case. I think authenticity is sharing, but intentionally. Your audience doesn't need to access every single difficult thing that you've gone through, or every single thing in general that you've gone through as a person, as a business, as a brand, service provider, product reseller, however it may be. So they need evidence that there are still human beings behind the business, human beings that are just like them, that they can relate to. So, for example, you can, like you mentioned, behind the scenes, you can show your team brainstorming ideas, or preparing for an event, for example, or celebrating something within your company. So things like sharing that your website crashed, or sharing that you lost one of your biggest clients before a launch, or before a page, or you like something went terribly wrong. I don't think those are things that people want to see. Even though it's real, it shows that you're real, it shows that things happen, it shows that you're human and you go through things and not everything is perfect. But I don't think that's what people necessarily wish or want to see. So I think the question we need to ask is, does this story increase trust, or does it just fill the timeline, the feed, and entertain people? Because if it builds trust, but it still shows you're human, 100% share it. But behind the scenes, the I made an example last time with the little pranks that harmless, very harmless pranks that we pull on people to show that you're human, you're alive, you know how to have fun, even though you know how to stay professional when you do need to stay professional. So authority is not about pretending; it's about being real and sharing intentionally. And I think when you show that when challenges happen, you are capable of handling them, that's how you're able to build trust and stay human at the same time.
So I can just see perhaps you're posting content for a business owner, just showing them what they look like without makeup and what they look like with makeup. So yes, they do
Makeup,
show
yes.
up,
Those
but
little
this
things.
is this is the human and the realistic side, whether it is that founder of the
Being
business
real.
showing the gray hair. It's a form where there's humans that run business, and it's showing the vulnerable side. So the one thing that definitely comes up is that we're living in a time of the next best thing, the next TikTok craze,
Mm-hmm.
new
Yes.
platform. We've seen also, platforms we use, perhaps LinkedIn for networking. It's become very social. It's like a social networking slash networking site. If you look at Substack, this platform used to be for, people that
For
like
notes and articles.
long form. So Substack has also become
Yes.
a very social platform. So I want to touch on, and lots of our discussion today is about finding the balance, and also when we have the correct marketing mix that we deploy in terms of the different content types. This is where we can hit that sweet spot. So I
Yeah.
want to touch on the following theme here, where we talk about the content flywheel, where you're sitting there with your calendar and you're working through, July, August, September, all of this content
Mm,
planning and manning out this content, because this is what is required to be consistent and be relevant. So, and also
yeah.
in the mix with staying relevant and being consistent, it's also about the next viral trend, So it's just so much
Always.
for marketing consultants, and especially businesses who needs to increase their bottom line. So let's talk about how can we create some sort of, when we're talking, perhaps let's use video as an example, where we can create perhaps a
Mm,
long form piece of educational content. It could be a video, it could be a very deep, well informed research article, or perhaps a case study, a business case study that can be repurposed in many ways, like, perhaps a 30-minute video into a combination of a few short form videos, as well as articles, and how that can be repurposed to kind of address that business need in terms of posting. So it's a little bit more of a
mm,
strategic means to have one piece of content that can serve you for your content calendar, as opposed to be, held captive by this need to fold your calendar just for the sake of doing it.
yeah. No, okay. You mentioned something about the next best thing, and that kind of hit home because we are actually in that era at the moment. Um, I feel like as a business, if you cannot, and we roughly touched on this in our first session a couple of weeks back, if you cannot grab attention authentically and you know kind of keep it in a sense as a business freelancer, if you're offering something to someone that's meant to solve their problems, um, then chances are you're going to be missed, on especially on social, because there's always something. Honestly, there's something could be trending today, but next week it's gone and forgotten to those that um, didn't really need it. So in terms of the momentum and the red flag when it comes to posting and branding and keeping the attention and building the trust, I think the biggest red flag is when activity is increasing, but the outcomes are not. So you could be seeing that businesses are posting more, running more campaigns, spending more money, working longer hours, but there are no inquiries. People still don't know what they're doing. Sales are not growing or improving or increasing. People are still confused as to what they do. I want to make a little example before I go on, with what's going on social at the moment, where people are posting about. a Netflix documentary, and they keep mentioning Netflix, mentioning what documentary they would, have on Netflix, for example. And I saw that Netflix actually responded to people online, and they kind of made a joke about it, saying that they don't have enough storage space for all these documentaries that are going around, which shows humanness, and authenticity, because we know that Netflix is known for online streaming and streaming docus, series, movies, etc. But for them to show up in this human moment and be human and show that there are human beings behind their account is what stands out for me.
Mm,
So
that's a good
in that
example.
sense,
Mm,
it is. It
mm,
really is. I've seen a couple other brands do the same thing. McDonald's, Burger King, they've done some similar things as well. But going back to what I was saying, with more inputs, less output, you as a company who's putting in more but getting less, you're incredibly busy, but strategically you are not going anywhere. You're still confusing people. You're still not letting people know what you do, who you do it for, why you do it, and why they should care. Then I don't think you should optimize your strategy if it's not working. Rather, focus on solving that problem. Like I said, take a pause, take a moment, think deeply about it, look at it from the outside and not from the inside. Because look at it like driving in the wrong direction. If you drive faster or you drive harder, you're not going to get to your destination sooner. But if you take time, slow down, think about it, and then strategize again and again and again, then you're not going to get lost more quickly. Instead, you're going to find other alternative ways to get to your destination. So at this point, you go back to the customer, think about what do they really need? What problem are we solving? Are we even clear about what it is? That's where the sweet spot would be.
no, definitely. So, for our audience out there, so we've been talking about finding the balance between volume posting and also posting content that really is not tone deaf. We've had brands in the past like Nando's that's weighed in on current news, hard news, or what's really issues that's plaguing South Africa, especially within the um, political realm.
Political.
So this is where, as marketing consultants, that if there is a brand, if you want to just bring it in to what's currently happening in South Africa, the current climate. So if we can refer to the xenophobic hatred that's emerged itself. So depending on how
Yes.
you look at it, some brands should be out there, not being tone deaf, but actually
Raising
mobilizing
awareness.
to
Yes.
build some sort of a Afro-pessimistic view, not for South Africans and people from other parts of Africa to perpetuate this cycle of violence, but instead to build understanding, dialogue, and social cohesion. So this is where lots of brands, especially South African brands, and companies out
Mhm.
that they can actually lend their voice to some of these important kind of a themes,
Initiatives.
you
Yes.
to put them center of some of these things that is going to bode well for the country. It's going to restore peace. These are things that bodes well. Yeah, so that has been our discussion today. We've been talking all about things marketing today. Impo has been giving us a few very helpful and practical anecdotes on how to approach things in the world of modern day marketing. and creating content that is sustainable, that is authentic, and that also has the customer in mind. And this is where also brands out there and practitioners has to have a very good sense of the audience that they are reaching. And when you have a sense of the different segments or the the psyche inside the psyche of the clients and the customers, in this way there's relatability, and you are able to forge very good relationships, and ultimately it will have some sort of a positive bearing or establish some sort of a foundational framework for brands um, to connect with their customers. Any concluding comments on your side? I definitely enjoyed our engagement. I think we refined
Absolutely.
and getting better at this. Any concluding remarks before we log off?
Before we wrap up. Yes, no, absolutely. It has been quite a good conversation, and I think if anybody needs to find out more, they need to read or watch more. They should definitely check Hassan out on LinkedIn, on Facebook. He's there, even on Substack. Myself as well. I do share a ton of content surrounding this. But in closing, since this was about the checklist, and I'll make sure to share it at the end of the live, what the checklist really is about is not just a list of activities that you should be doing as a practitioner. It's not a have I done one, two, three, four, five, tick, 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 tick. It's more a series of questions that would come from a customer or a client. So things like, can people understand you? Can they find you? Do they trust you? How do they go about trusting you? Why should they trust you? Can they engage with you as a person on a human level? And will they be able to take the next step from there on moving forward? When brands, companies, service providers, freelancers, personal branding people are able to confidently answer these questions, marketing becomes much more simple, because then once you've answered all of these questions, and people can go to your page and they can go to your website and they can visit whatever online platform you have, and they don't get confused, then you can start becoming creative about how you say it. And then everything else happens much more smoothly.
Looks like I'm a busy man. Yeah, so that's where we
It
leave it
was
off, and
just
we'll
so.
have another discussion. Check Info out on Substack,
No,
LinkedIn, as
absolutely.
well Facebook, as well as TikTok. That's it from my side. Hassan and Abdullah signing off. Until the next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Until next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.